Babylon was directed by Damien Chazelle and stars Margot Robbie, Brad Pitt, Diego Calva, amongst a plethora of other actors, and is a movie that I was actually quite excited for. When I saw the first trailer for it, which looked like this really crazy drug-fueled experience, and I saw how bizarre it got, I thought, yeah, I gotta see this day one. And so naturally, I showed up to the theater tonight, the first show I could get. But essentially in this movie, you follow three characters and how they're trying to make it in the industry. One person who's already established over there, played by Brad Pitt, and how his career is turning out. And then you follow Margot Robbie and Diego Calva's characters as they're trying to make it big in the industry. But as the place is evolving, talkies are coming into vogue, and things are changing in terms of what the lasting power of a movie star is. Things start to get a little more crazy. And this is a movie that is essentially, how do I describe it best? The best way to describe it is it's like Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which is dialed up to 11. Like, this really is an insane movie. It doesn't help that Brad Pitt and Margot Robbie are in it, so you're constantly going to keep thinking about that movie in your head. But what you essentially get with Babylon is a film that I don't think is going to work for everybody. Because it's one of those things where this movie is so crazy and over the top and so frantic and so outlandish that I feel like it's going to turn off some people. It also does things in terms of its narrative choices and some of its decisions in terms of storytelling, which I feel like are going to be a little jarring. And some of the imagery that you get to see in the movie as a result of it, some of the stuff that happens, is also bizarre. It's also really, really crazy. But I can only speak to the fact that when I just watched it, the crowd that I was with was applauding by the end. So they seemed to really enjoy it, and I can honestly say that so did I. I mean, I was kind of along for the ride when it came to this movie. Like, early on, you kind of get a sense of exactly what you're getting into. There's this first scene, I'm not going to spoil anything, but right there, I was like, oh, this is the movie we're getting. And so after that, you just sort of strap yourself in for the rest of the 3 hours and 9 minutes of runtime, which definitely is long. And yes, it can feel long. There are definitely aspects of this movie that feel like they drag out a little bit. Sometimes when it comes to what the film wants to address, it goes a little more heavy-handed on it than I feel like it should have, because it's after a while you kind of get what is going on. And so the film then coming back to tell you, oh, by the way, did you get it? This is what we're doing. It was just kind of like, okay, got it. You know, we don't have to reiterate this. But it does lead to some really great performances as a result of that. And I gotta say, of all the years that I've seen Margot Robbie acting, this might be my favorite performance of hers. She is incredible as this character, Nellie Leroy, and what she does in this film, all the stuff that she's sort of putting herself through, especially physically, is awesome. And she's really, really good in the movie. And she is doing career best work over here. But not to be discounted is Diego Calva, who plays Manny Torres, a character who is, again, trying to make it big in the industry. He wants to be on movie sets. He wants to work the backgrounds. And he wants to do something that has some significance. And his performance is also really, really good. Like, he is he's a revelation, I would say, from this movie. And I want to see him in more stuff going forward. Like, he is a damn good actor. And Brad Pitt is really good, as always. He does a really good job of it. Also, some of the supporting cast that you get, like Lee Jin Lee and Yohan Adepo and Gene Smart, they're all doing a really great job too, and they all bring their A game to this. Like, really, there's not a bad performance in this movie. Everybody is doing a really, really good job. The direction by Chazelle is frantic. I mean, if anything, one thing I've learned from those movies up until now is like, it seems like this one is a culmination of a lot of that in terms of spectacle and in terms of, you know, trying to weave in together musical elements as well. Like, it sort of felt like a perfect marriage of something like La La Land and First Man in the spectacle sense. Like in terms of just what you see on screen, especially the opening few minutes. Like, I keep going back to this, okay? But what you see as the film starts up in that first half especially is bonkers. And he has done an amazing job of handling the production of this film. The ways the sets are constructed and the stuff that he's pulled off, awesome. And it's the writing where I think it's a little topsy-turvy at times, because there are moments where it just, like I said, feels a little overstuffed and a little much. And so it can be a lot of sensory overload. Like, you can definitely find yourself watching it and feeling a little exhausted. Like, all right, seen enough. But at the same time, it does work for the most part, and I would say it manages to hold its momentum mostly all the way till the end of the film. Although there are points where, like I said, it gets dragged out a little bit. Although I didn't really necessarily feel the runtime. It is, like I said, a long film at 3 hours and 9 minutes, but I didn't really have that kind of effect. This is another movie where I find myself on the other side of things when it comes to critical evaluations. The other one was White Noise earlier this week, where I saw the reviews were pretty divisive, and I was like, oh, I actually quite enjoyed that. And this is another case where I quite enjoyed what I was seeing in this. But I also want to talk more about the technical aspects because they're phenomenal, like the cinematography. This is a gorgeous film, and I would recommend seeing this on the biggest screen you can find. It looks stunning. The colors grading in this is just it's beautiful. Like, it's a beautiful looking movie. And again, the choreography of certain scenes, downright remarkable. Some of the best I've seen this year. The score by Justin Hurwitz. This is a man who has not missed, and he continues to not. And his score over here is phenomenal. It's probably going to get Oscar nominated, and I mean, maybe even win. We'll see what happens, but I also want to keep caution because I remember First Man won the Golden Globe, but then didn't get Oscar nominated, and that broke my heart because I thought that deserved it, but whatever. So anyway, his score in this is good. That's all I want to say about that. Really, I mean, there is a lot of things that I found myself praising in this movie. And like I said, it just constantly keeps you locked in. Like, it never loses you for a second. So even if you don't entirely enjoy Babylon in terms of its narrative scope, I feel like just as a fun detour, you're probably going to have a really great time with it. It chronicles the era of Hollywood that it's telling the story of quite nicely. You follow from 1920s to the early 1930s, and you get a very interesting narrative out of that. And as you're following along, you can sort of feel like there's a similarity of sorts in those moments to Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because that takes place around a year, I think, if I was correct. And this one is a few years, but it still manages to chronicle things in a pretty effective manner. But as the film starts to come to a close, it starts to address certain thematic elements that make up what you're about to basically get from this movie in terms of message. And it leads to a final scene, which is a very interesting swing. I'm not really sure what people are going to have to say about that, but that was weird. And it's a bonkers way of wrapping things up, and it's very unpredictable. Like, you're not gonna guess how this film actually comes to a close. But there's one thing that I did want to mention really quickly, because some people are probably gonna go see the movie because of this, and that is Toby McGuire. He's in the movie. He leaves an impact. That's all I'll say about that. After that, go see it for yourself. In the end, I enjoyed Babylon. I thought it was really fun. It had some uneven moments for sure, and it has some narrative issues here and there, but overall I was very satisfied with what that we got at the end of it, and I am looking forward to seeing it again. And like I said, I'm on the other side, I guess, when it comes to the critics on this one. I am quite pleased with this movie. In fact, fairly so. Like, I'm gonna give it a slightly, solidly high rating, and I do recommend checking it out. I mean, if nothing else, it's a great, detour in terms of like a Christmas break for the adults, of course. I'm gonna give Babylon an 8 out of 10. Guys, thank you very much for watching, and what did you guys think of Babylon? If you have seen it, it has opened in theaters tonight, but it has been running like in screenings, so I know some people have already seen it. Or what's your favorite Damien Chazelle movie? What are your thoughts on him on his movies so far? Leave them in the comments down below. You guys are the best. Thank you very much as always for watching, and if you like this, please just subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the movies.